Check this out. You're caught in a snowstorm on a lonely mountain pass in the Japanese Alps. The wind's howling so hard, it feels like it's trying to rip your skin off. Snowflakes swirl so thick, you can't see 10 feet in front of you. And then, you see her. She's standing dead fucking still in the storm. A woman, tall, impossibly pale, dressed in flowing white robes that blend with the snow. Her long hair, black as midnight, whipping in the wind. You can't make out her face at first, but when you do, those goddamn eyes, cold, empty, like she's staring straight into your soul. You take a step toward her, maybe to call out, maybe to convince yourself she's real. But there are no footprints where she's standing. None. The snow swirls around her, but it doesn't touch her. She doesn't move, doesn't blink, just watches. Travelers have told stories like this for centuries. Stories of a woman in white appearing in blizzards, luring people in, freezing them solid, or leaving them lost in the snow forever. Some say she's a vengeful spirit, the ghost of those who froze to death in the mountains. Others whisper she's something else entirely. But what if it isn't folklore? What if there's something real lurking in the blizzards of Japan's frozen peaks? A predator that doesn't leave tracks. A being we still don't know shit about. What if she's not a ghost at all, but something alive? Something built for the cold, waiting inside the whiteout. Hey folks, I'm Uncle Perry, and I love me a goddamn good ghost story. But you know the ones I really dig? The ones that walk that fine line between folklore and flesh. You know what I mean? The kind of stories where you're not too damn sure if you're hearing about a spirit or an actual living, breathing creature lurking out there. I've gone down some pretty crazy-ass rabbit holes on this channel. Everything from Dogman in Texas to the Ningen way down in Antarctic waters. So when people start talking about Japan's snow woman, my cryptid senses start tingling like a nun at a Chippendales show. Here's the deal. Yuki Onna is usually said to be just another ghost in Japanese folklore, right? A tragic figure drifting through the snow, freezing anyone who dares cross her path. But take a step back and really look at the details, and you start to see a fucking pattern. A tall, pale figure appearing in a blizzard, leaving no tracks, and vanishing without a trace. That sounds a hell of a lot like a Wendigo. Regional legends, local boogeymen, but possibly something much more. What makes it even creepier is how these stories have stuck around. Heian-era accounts talk about travelers found frozen miles off the trail, caught mid-step like they were slammed by the storm out of nowhere. No time to fight back or find shelter. And then jump to today. Hikers posting online about seeing a motionless woman in white during blizzards. That's over 1,000 years of people reporting damn near the same thing. Coincidence or continuity? Now, I'm not saying it's all real, but there are more than a few strange explanations. Maybe she's a vengeful yokai spirit, fueled by tragedy. Maybe she's a cold-adapted species we've never classified, Something that doesn't leave tracks because it's built for the snow. Hell, maybe she's an ice elemental, a living storm with no physical body at all. Or maybe, just maybe, it's all bullshit in people's heads. Hallucinations from freezing temperatures and losing their fucking mind. Whatever the truth is, we're going to dig into it piece by piece. From ancient texts to modern reports and every wild-ass theory in between. But to start, we've got to go back to where this phenomenon first took place. To really understand what the hell we're dealing with, we've got to rewind way back to Japan's Heian period during the 11th century. That's where some of the earliest case files of the Snow Woman show up, tucked into a massive collection of stories called the Konjaku Monogatari. Imagine noblemen and peasants alike swapping tales about pale women appearing in brutal blizzards. Travelers crossing remote mountain passes would talk about seeing a figure in white standing in the snow. She never spoke, never moved, just watched. Those who got too close often never made it home. The ones who did made sure everyone knew about the cold, hollow stare that froze their blood, like your sister when she stopped calling me daddy. These weren't just spooky fireside stories. They read just like eyewitness reports. Accounts from people trying to make sense of encounters they couldn't explain. And the details are eerily consistent. The height, the flowing white robes, the sudden storms that came out of nowhere. Shit, even back in the day, people weren't sure if she was a lost soul, a goddess of winter, or something else entirely. Fast forward 800 years. Whoa, that's a rush. And we get the most popular account of all. Lafcadio Hearn's retelling of the original Yuki Onna story on January 20th, 1904. He was told the story by a farmer in Musashi province. In his book, Quaden, he writes about a woodcutter who got caught in a snowstorm with his mentor, Minokichi. They take shelter in a boatman's hut. Later that night, a strange woman drifts into their hut, skin as pale as snow, lips faintly blue, eyes sharp as ice, wearing a white kimono. She breathes on the older man and kills him with a freezing breath. She turned to Minokichi to freeze him also. However, she hesitated because he was smoking hot. She really liked him, so she spared Minokichi on one condition: that he never speak of her to anyone. If he did, he would die a horrible agony. A year later, he hooked up with a chick named Oyuki. FYI, Yuki means snow in Japanese. That should have been his first hint, right? Regardless, they fell in love, got married, had 10 fucking kids, and lived a happy life. I don't know how that's possible, but we'll roll with it. Oddly, Oyuki never aged. She stayed just as beautiful as the first day he met her. One day, Oyuki was wearing a solid white kimono and sewing under a lantern. Minokichi, not fucking thinking, told her that she reminded him of this creepy-ass snow woman he met one night out in the woods. Turns out, yeah, you guessed it, his wife was Yuki Onna all along. She reminded him of the deal they made. But because of their kids, she didn't kill him though. As long as he cared for the children, he can live. Then she vanished in a swirl of snow, leaving him alone with his broken promise and 10 children. Hearn's story isn't a historical record, but it gave Western audiences their first clear picture of the Snow Woman, Yuki Onna. And let's be honest, it reads like a field report, a first-hand account of someone who came face to face with an incredible creature and barely lived to tell the tale. Now, let's talk about abilities. Yuki Onna can summon sudden blizzards to trap her prey. She freezes victims solid with a single exhale. She leaves no footprints, no scent, no trace, like she's part of the damn storm herself. But here's where shit gets interesting. Depending on where you are in Japan, Yuki Onna's motives and methods shift. In Tohoku, she's a vengeful spirit, the restless soul of travelers who froze to death, now taking revenge on the living. In Nagano, she's cast as a tragic figure, a grieving mother's ghost wandering the snow in search of her lost child. Then there's Hokkaido, where she's less human and more badass predator, a snow creature that stalks its prey like a wolf, striking without hesitation or mercy. This variation might seem like Folklore doing what Folklore does, changing with the times and places, but there's more to it. What if these aren't just different stories about the same thing? What if they're descriptions of separate creatures with regional differences? Like a subspecies of Yuki Onna. Which takes us into a more fascinating line of thought, the ice elemental hypothesis. Picture a life form not made of flesh and blood, but of ice and snow. A sentient storm that can take human shape when it wants to. That would explain why she doesn't leave tracks and why she's impervious to the cold. She's not fighting the elements. She is the elements. And this fear isn't just modern paranoia. For centuries, local shamans and Shinto shrine maidens, or Miko, have performed snow warding rituals to keep the Snow Woman at bay. These ceremonies often involved salt, sacred chants, and offerings left in mountain passes. Things like rice cakes and warm sake, meant to appease her spirit or her hunger. Was it superstition, or were they dealing with something very real and very dangerous in those mountains? For a legend that's supposedly just a ghost story, it sure behaves a fuck-ton like a cryptid case file. And if that's true, then we should be able to find reports, real encounters from people who have seen her. Well, turns out we have. And what people are saying will make you scamper for the toilet paper. If Yuki Onna really is more than a ghost story, then somewhere out there should be a trail of encounters. People who came face to face with something in the snow and lived to tell about it. And the fucked up thing? There is. By the Heian period, 794 to 1185, regional accounts describe lone travelers seeing a pale woman during brutal snowstorms. She's always the same, tall, eerily beautiful, and dressed head to toe in white. Some stories claim she appeared suddenly in front of travelers, asking cryptid questions or simply watching them in silence. Others mention her standing in the middle of the road, forcing people to detour into dangerous terrain. More than just a few of those detours ended with someone freezing to death or vanishing altogether. The oldest documented report was during the Muromachi period, 1333 to 1573. The poet Sogi claimed to have encountered a Yuki Onna while traveling. He described seeing a tall, beautiful woman with white skin and hair, wearing a white kimono in a frozen garden during a heavy snowfall. When he tried to speak to her, she ghosted him, literally. Locals told him he'd seen the spirit of snow herself. This is the earliest recorded eyewitness account. By the Edo period, the sightings hadn't gone away. Hell no. Travel logs from the 17th and 18th centuries tell of merchants and messengers disappearing without a trace in the mountain passes. A few lucky survivors claimed they saw a woman before getting lost, sometimes described as gliding across the snow without disturbing it, other times as a fleeting shadow between the trees. I know, these aren't scientific proof, sure, but they sound like the early cryptid reports you hear about Bigfoot or Mothman. Eyewitnesses fumbling to describe something outside their understanding. And yeah, good luck finding photos. People in the 1700s didn't exactly pack GoPros for a stroll in the woods. I know, fucking crazy, right? Fast forward to 1904, and we get to Lafcadio Hearn's version of the story I told you about earlier. Hearn's story is a retelling of the original Japanese folklore, but he wrote it down after hearing multiple witness accounts during his time in Japan. Call it a second-hand field report. But here's where shit gets really damn interesting. Modern hikers and villagers are still talking about her. On hiking forums on Reddit, there are posts from people who claim to have seen a motionless figure in white during sudden blizzards in Japan. One hiker in Hokkaido wrote about spotting what he thought was another climber ahead of him. When he tried to catch up, the figure seemed to drift further away without leaving any tracks in the snow. He turned back after the temperature plummeted unnaturally fast, convinced something was wrong with the mountain. Rural villagers, especially in isolated regions of Nagano and Tohoku, commonly speak of travelers disappearing on calm winter days that suddenly turn stormy for no fucking reason. They whisper about a woman in white who calls people deeper into the snow. While you won't find these stories in police reports, you do hear them around dinner tables and local bars, passed down as warnings to avoid certain trails after dark. There's also the unsettling trend of people going missing. In snowy hellscapes like Hokkaido and Nagano, rescue teams report spikes in missing hikers during unexpected blizzards. Officially, these are written off as weather-related tragedies. But when you stack up the numbers, it's hard not to wonder, are we really looking at a string of bad luck? Or could there be something picking people off in those storms? Despite centuries of stories, there's no solid proof. No photos, no video, no tracks, no remains, not shit. It's like she's a ghost or a creature perfectly adapted to leave no trace. Whatever the case, one thing's for goddamn sure. People keep seeing her, and people keep disappearing. So is Yuki Onna the face we've given to the deadly power of winter? Or is she something science hasn't dared to classify yet? All right, let's get into the meat of this damn thing. If you've made it this far, well, first, thank you, I'm flattered. Second, you're probably wondering, what the hell is Yuki Onna? Is she really a living, breathing creature? Or is she a product of old folk tales and tired hikers losing their shit in the snow? Let's break it down. First, we'll look at the theories that say, hey, chill the fuck out. There's nothing supernatural or cryptozoological going on here. Environmental illusions. Whiteout conditions are no bullshit. In the middle of a blizzard, the world turns into a giant blank canvas. No horizons, no landmarks, just endless snow and wind. Your brain starts trying to find patterns, faces, shapes, anything to make sense of the chaos. Combine that with mirror-like ice surfaces and drifting snow forming into weird humanoid shapes, and suddenly, you've got a pale fucker staring back at you. It's pareidolia on steroids. Hypothermic hallucinations. Here's where shit gets scary on a physiological level. Severe cold messes with your brain chemistry. As hypothermia sets in, your blood flow gets jacked, your oxygen levels plummet, and bam, you start seeing fucked up shit. Figures in the storm, voices whispering your name, shadows moving just out of reach. Some survivors of extreme cold have described the feeling like they were being followed or stalked. It ain't hard to see how a lonely hiker in a blizzard, exhausted and freezing, might hallucinate a tall woman in white. Misidentified wildlife. Let's be honest, Japan's mountains are full of life, even in winter. Snow foxes, hares, even albino deer could easily be mistaken for shit more sinister if you only catch a glimpse through blowing snow. A startled deer leaping across the drift could register as a pale, human-sized shape darting through the storm. And when your adrenaline's already kicking your ass from not trying to freeze to fucking death, your brain fills in the blanks with the stuff of legends. Optical phenomena. Then there's the science of light itself. Fata Morgana, a type of mirage that can warp distant objects and make them appear taller, floating, or completely otherworldly. In snowy regions, light refracting off ice crystals and snowfields can project phantom images onto the horizon. You're not seeing a ghost, you're seeing a trick of the atmosphere. Creepy? Hell yes. Supernatural? Not really. Cultural priming. Finally, let's talk about the power of lore. If you grow up in Japan, chances are you've heard of Yuki Onna. That seed gets planted early. Now, fast forward to you being lost in a snowstorm. You're exhausted, scared, and your brain's grasping for context. Every shadow in the snow starts to look like her. Every sound feels like she's there. This is cultural priming at work. Your mind conjuring her up because you expect her to be there. All right, enough of the buzzkill science blah blah blah. Let's flip the coin. What if Yuki Onna isn't just in people's heads? What if she's something real? Something humanity hasn't fully figured out yet. Traditional spirit theory. The most common belief in Japan is that Yuki Onna is a yokai, a vengeful spirit born from cold-related deaths. The idea is that folks who froze to death in the mountains, overcome with negative emotions, became these spectral women in white. They lure travelers off the path, freeze them solid like pissed-off popsicles, and they join the storm's chorus of lost souls. It's poetic, terrifying, and completely fits with Japanese folklore's obsession with restless spirits tied to natural forces. Cryptid animal hypothesis. Here's where the cryptid hunter in me gets a stiffy. What if Yuki Onna isn't a ghost, but a yet undiscovered critter? A cold-adapted hominid or predator perfectly evolved for snowy environments. Think of it. an apex predator that hunts in storms, uses the snow for camouflage, and leaves no trace because it's adapted to traverse deep snow without breaking the surface. Maybe it's humanoid, maybe not. But the idea of a living, breathing snow creature stalking mountain passes, that'll have you shitting icicles. Ice elemental concept. Now we're in deep, speculative territory. Some folks believe Yuki Onna could be an elemental, a sentient being composed entirely of condensed frost and snow. She's not flesh and blood, which explains why there are no remains, no tracks, no evidence. She forms out of the storm itself, and when she's done, she dissipates back into the wind. It's weird as fuck, sure, but it would explain her ability to vanish instantly and survive in conditions that normally kill everybody else. Energy-based life form. Let's get even weirder. What if she's a life form made of pure cold energy? Not matter as we know it, but something that exists at the edge of physics. She interacts with the environment just enough to be seen. Anomalous heat signatures, slight changes in air pressure, but leaves no body behind because she never fucking had one. Imagine a creature feeding on heat, drawing warmth out of its victims to sustain itself, like a heat vampire. Territorial protector. Finally, some see Yuki Onna as a guardian, not a predator. A sentient force defending sacred mountain passes from human encroachment. She doesn't attack indiscriminately. She punishes those who disrespect the land, who wander too far off the path, or who's fucking stupid enough to travel during a storm. Maybe she's nature's way of keeping us out of places we were never meant to survive in. At the end of the day, every theory has holes in them. The skeptics can't fully explain the consistency of details across centuries, and the believers have no hard proof, no photos, no bodies, nothing that would satisfy a scientist. But the fact that people are still seeing her, still telling the same goddamn story 1,000 years later, well, that should make you stop and think. So, what's left? To figure that out, we've got to take a step back and weigh the evidence from both sides, and that's where things get real interesting. So here we are at the end of the trail, staring into the snowstorm, trying to figure out what the hell we're really dealing with. Is Yuki Onna just another ghost story to scare kids into staying home during blizzards? Or is there other shit at play in those frozen mountains? We've seen the skeptical takes, optical illusions, hypothermia-induced hallucinations, even the idea that people are just seeing snow-covered animals and freaking the fuck out. All solid points, but none of them explain why the same descriptions, tall, pale woman, no footprints, piercing eyes, keep popping up across 1,000 years of reports. Then there are the believers, the folks who say Yuki Onna is a vengeful spirit born from tragic deaths in the cold, or a cryptid, a predator evolved to hunt in whiteouts, moving like a shadow in the snow. Or hell, maybe she's not even alive in the way we understand life. Maybe she's an elemental or a creature of pure energy, slipping in and out of this world like the wind. The truth? We have no fucking clue. And that's the part that gets under my skin. Because for every logical explanation, there's another damn story. Another traveler goes missing without a trace. Another hiker swearing they saw a woman in white watching them through the storm. So maybe Yuki Onna isn't a spirit, or an animal, or even a myth. Maybe she's all of those rolled into one. A force of nature that doesn't give a shit whether we believe in her or not. And if that's the case, next time you're out in the mountains and the wind starts screaming and the snow swallows the trail, don't bother looking for footprints. Because if she's there watching you from the whiteout, she's already decided if you're walking out alive. If you think Yuki Onna's pretty damn hot for a snow demon, tap that like button and subscribe. That way, you won't miss out on more of my fucked up commentary. And besides, I really do appreciate it. You think Yuki Onna could be a cryptid? An old wives' tale? A ghost? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're ready to go all in, that join button's got your name on it. For just $2.99, you can have my back in a huge way. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. You are the real beast.